CBS News in Washington. This is the CBS News Night Watch.
Problem.
Police responding to a call that a man who tried to run down a motorcycle cop has taken hostages and is holding a gun to the head of one of them. In the line of duty, a Somerville, Massachusetts policeman shoots to free the hostages. The gunman later will die.
As much anxiety and pain as it has cost me, it has also matured me in a way that nothing else could.
Officer Nolan LaCroix, who fired the fatal bullet, turned to a program pioneered by the Boston Police Department to help cops who have undergone severe stress. Charles Hughes is also killed in the line of duty. William Hill has been forced to kill twice in 12 years.
It's normal to have what we call right off the back very unusual, excruciating headaches. These are normal, but for the average officer, he or she does not know this, and they can start to think there's something wrong with them.
Each officer has been cleared by an internal police department investigation, but each has had to struggle with anxiety, insomnia, guilt, and depression.
We just thought it was, somebody lighting off firecrackers out in the back. We could smell the gunpowder when we got there, and first we saw nobody, and then bang, come out of the door, and just 3 seconds, that's all it took. And, I've been reliving that memory, that moment, since that day it happened.
What do you say to that little kid that always comes up to you? All the time. Right, all the time comes up and he looks at your gun and all, and he sees that gun there and says, "Mister, have you ever shot anybody with that gun?" And you think to yourself, should I lie to him and say, "No, I haven't"? Or should I tell him the truth and say, "Yes, I have"?
Steve Young, CBS News, Boston.
Ed Donovan, director of the Boston Police Stress Program, joins us now to talk about this unique kind of stress because it is different. Why is it different, though? I mean, what is it about a cop's life that makes it more stressful, say, than a fireman, or more stressful, say, than a brain surgeon?
Well, particularly in these last 15 years, we're expected to be too many roles to too many people. We're living up to a higher standard than any other occupation in the world. We have no choices of our own. People expect us to live up to these. And worse than that is we actually start to believe it after a while. And we're being sued right and left for everything we do or don't do.
Yeah. How does your program work, the Boston Police Stress Program? And give me some sense of the reality of the program. Who comes to see you? What do they say? Where are they in their life?
Well, basically, it was patterned after the theme of Alcoholics Anonymous, where who knows better about helping someone with their problem than someone who's been through it. We found through research and our own research, having gone through the problems ourselves, that the average policeman is very macho. Probably the most macho-oriented person in the world is a cop with a gun, a badge, and uniform. And how dare he or she admit that they have a problem, and who would they go to for help? Because if they do, they're afraid of repercussion. It's a sign of weakness. So we said, why not use the same principles of AA?
What kind of repercussions?
Afraid of being dismissed.
Yeah. They'd lose their stature in the department, and therefore their promotion would not come through.
Appear to be weak.
Yeah.
Transferred.
But is that mindset the fault of the policeman, because they have allowed this kind of self-departmental imposed pressure to be there, the macho, the sense of self-esteem dictated by these outside factors?
Partly we are to blame for that. We live up to that image, and the police administrators live up to it also, that we're not supposed to have these problems. But it stems with Hollywood. It stems with television, the role that people perceive us to be. The John Wayne, the Clint Eastwood, those type of things. And that's exactly what we're not.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly what we're not.
In what way?
If we were to do any one thing that they do in movies, we'd be disciplined, transferred, or even fired.
Yeah.
We don't
Dirty
have any
Harry
rights.
wouldn't survive on the Boston Police Force.
They'd bury you in some place or fire you or get you off the job as fast as they could.
Most policemen don't fire their guns, do they?
Very rarely in this day and age, or in any day and age.
Who comes to see you, though? And what do they say when they come in? Give me a sort of case history.
By the time we see burnt-out policemen from all ranks, from police chiefs on down, and it comes from usually a marital problem, family problem with the children, or internal problems with the job. They're going along, they're doing their job, and everything's going fine. Next thing you know, they're being sued, and all of a sudden the pressure of being sued and not knowing where they're going with their career seems to take its toll on them. Yeah. We have a high divorce rate, a high suicide rate, and an early death rate.
What happened to you?
Myself, I was one of those guys that wanted to be a cop and do good, and altruistic, wanted to help the society, and I got caught up in it in the 60s particularly. I came on in 1957, but during the 60s we had the riots, the protests, the demonstrations, and I was photographing suicides, dead bodies all the time, car accidents. 1 minute.
Your skill as a photographer.
Yeah, and then the next thing I'd be called out to a riot and told not to do nothing. You'd watch people loot stores and set fires, and you're just told to stand there with the helmet in the club and told not to do nothing. And of course my nerves got to me and I didn't know it, and I started to drink a little more often. And then eventually I sought help through a doctor because I would not go to a chaplain because I lost faith in God, or a psychologist, anything to do with psych.
And where was your family?
I still had my family, wife and 7 children, but my whole world became obsessed with this urge to destroy myself. I thought of suicide several times.
So, well, you came pretty close, didn't you?
Oh, yes, on more than one occasion.
I mean, did you actually put the gun in your mouth at one time?
Yes, I made attempt at suicide with my own revolver, and also by putting myself in dangerous situations where I could be shot, or also aim my police vehicle at a pole or a cruiser.
You did that?
Oh, yes.
Did you? But did you actually?
When I say oh yes, I don't mean I'm bragging.
Yeah, I know you're not. But let's understand that. Did you actually crash it?
No, I pulled out at the last minute. I couldn't do it because then I would have been the extreme failure to my 7 children.
And you never pulled the trigger.
Came close, too close, too many times.
Would you put it in your mouth, and then what would you do? You think about your kids? You think about your wife? You think about
no, the thing that
God,
appeared in my face wasn't God. I didn't believe in God. You know, the thing I thought of most was my children's faces. Yeah. And then, thank God, because the years coming in counseling, I've seen what happened to policemen's families when they did commit suicide, how the families pay the price.
Yeah. All right, let's pick up on the story when we come back. Eddie, excuse me, Eddie Donovan from the Boston PD. Back in a moment. Eddie Donovan is here. He wrote a book called The Shattered Badge, which is about the stress program and case histories of its involvement with the lives of policemen. When you look at what is it necessary to change this stress? I mean, where do you begin to correct it? Where do you begin to reach out to people like Eddie Donovan who are sticking revolvers in their mouth and trying to, considering suicide through all kinds of means?
It has to begin with full support from the administration, changing the attitudes with this Neanderthal attitude that we are Superman and we're not supposed to have problems. Training, education, setting up programs where policemen can feel safe and secure and know it will not be held against them. Until we change the attitude of training and education and the administrators towards this and the men themselves towards it, it's never going to change.
Well, what kind of instruction exists in most police departments around the country for young recruits to begin to work with the young people coming in so that their own perceptions and role models will not be those of the older officers?
They are doing more and more stress awareness training in police academies throughout the nation today. But however, it's like I call it blue inoculation, preventive medicine. It depends upon who's doing the training and how much they can instill in the warning signs, because most young police officers are like anyone else, like the alcoholic who says it's never going to happen to me, it's always going to be the other guy. It has to be ongoing training, something that will be taught to them in-service training all through their careers. It should be, I think going for counseling for a police officer should be so indoctrinated into them, it'll be just like going in and having your motor vehicle serviced.
Well, do you have people call you up and say, would you take care of Joe, my partner? I think he's really going through some traumatic episode. Would you talk to him? Or are all the visits of people who engage in counseling self-initiated?
Oh, no. I mean, we see anybody for any reason. Someone could tell me about a policeman or a member of his family in a supermarket, and I'll initiate the call myself.
You'll call him up and say, why don't you come?
Oh, absolutely. We don't wait. We don't do the traditional psychological type of interviews. We don't wait for someone who's got a problem to call us and ask for help.
So he comes in and he says, look, I got a problem. My wife is not happy because I'm on the go all the time, and she worries about what's happening to me. This is a tough job. I carry a gun. I'm worried about, you know, everything. I don't think I'm getting the right kind of promotion. I don't feel like life is turning out the way it ought to be. What do you say to him?
The first thing was we try to motivate him to sit down and talk to us.
All right, so he sits down and he talks to you and he says, look, my wife, my children are proud of me. I'm not making enough money. I can't make ends meet. You know, I'm worrying about my progress in life.
We try to get them to talk, to continue talking, and to show them they're not unique, that policemen are no different than the rest of the world in many, many ways. Try to motivate them, if the problem is marital, to seek professional help. We use all professional people as resources. Yeah. We try to get them into group. We have all kinds of
How does that work?
By talking to the officer, we try to motivate him to attend one of the meetings that we have on a weekly session. And if he can get in there, he or she can get in there, then we let the group work on them. And by doing that, you have the same peer support in a group that in police work as you do in AA or anything else, and they feel comfortable. And all of a sudden, they start to share their feelings and start to learn how to live and deal with their problem, whatever it is.
Now, do they come out of this better police officers?
Oh, absolutely.
Better able to deal with it?
I can interrupt you right there. If the police officer does half of what he or she is asked to do, they're much better for themselves, their family, and for the community they serve.
How many people do you see a week? I mean, how pervasive are the number of people crying out for help or that you're reaching out to?
Well, in the Boston program, we have mutual aid. We are able to see police officers from the surrounding communities and set up programs. So we see quite a few people. We're probably seeing an average coming through that program for various groups over 200 people a week.
Why did you want to be a police officer in the first place?
I just got interested in the United States Navy. I worked with Naval Intelligence, Shore Patrol, the FBI, as a photographer. And I just saw it was very interesting, and it looked like someplace that could you do your work and at the same time help people. It was really helping. An
interesting job.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and you found out
Well,
what?
you find out you get paid to do a job nobody really wants you to do. If it affects them, they want you to punish and...
What's the difference in the perception that we have of police people and the perception they have of themselves? How does that vary, do you think?
I think that the ideals, the way people see policemen today is changing more and more, thanks to shows like this. But I think that policemen still see themselves as that stoic, stiff upper lip, not supposed to have a problem, and put on that Superman.
And can't admit mistakes.
And that is the crux of the thing. If the policeman can only realize that he or she is just like anyone else when it comes to having a problem, then no matter what the problem, they can get help.
Yeah. All the cases we read of a police officer who fired too quick, and therefore a young kid was shot who didn't have a weapon. What is working on that officer to cause that kind of incident to happen?
Well, we can't tell you why the incident happened. I can just tell you what's going to happen as a result of the incident. The officer, nobody can fill his shoes. I mean, he has to make a split-second decision whether to fire or not to fire, and then everybody judges him for weeks and months to come what he should or shouldn't have done, including his own. But unless he gets proper help, he can lay back and not respond to a call and hesitate to take out his gun the next time and probably be dangerous to himself, his partner, or the community he serves. Or, without help, he could become very dangerous. He could overreact and take out his gun too quick and use it too quick.
And how do you prepare an officer to make that instantaneous decision?
Well, most police departments have academy training for when to shoot and when not to shoot. But it's still the same old ballgame. Until you're out there, you don't know really what you're going to do until it happens.
Practice is not the same thing.
Oh, my God. You know, you're using live ammunition and live people.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about...
I don't see the job getting any better.
Change in police.
But I can see if we can change the attitudes about policemen, about themselves, and about having problems, then we can bring down the suicide rate and everything else.
That's the shattered badge. It's what it's about. Thank you very much, Eddie Donovan.
Thank you, Charlie.
Night Watch continues. Stay with us.